Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the latest installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, September 19th, the day of the 34th Emmys, which ran in 1982. Back then, you had people like Alan Alda winning for Best Actor. You had Barney Miller. And you had two police shows winning for drama and also comedy, Barney Miller and Hill Street Blues. Today, in 2025, or last week, when the Emmys ran, felt like it was more of a vast variety category.
It was, I think, Adolescence swept, and then The Pit won. I know Noah Hawley won for Best Actor, and then The Pit won for Best Drama.
Adolescence is a miniseries. The Pit is a drama.
And then the studio also, I think, like either got the most nominations or most wins for like a comedy show.
But the cool thing about all three of those is that we gave them all good reviews. Everything was a 7 or above in our ratings, and in the foreign Emmys, they don't come around until November.
Foreign Emmys.
The foreign Emmys, yeah. Like things like Extraordinary Attorney Woo wins. Last year, I think for comedy, it was Division Palermo. But we've also done other shows this year that I think would possibly make it on. Asura, Atwal, Cassandra, Kareem.
With Asura, I hope that gets it because it was the first review that we did this year.
What'd you give it?
I think I gave the whole season like a 9.
I don't think you gave it a 9.
It was an 8 or 9.
Yeah, I don't think you gave it a 9, but we've also done K-dramas in the past. Squid Game, Moving, Money Heist Korea, A Time Called You, Glitch. I'm saying that, of course, because Tempest is a K-drama. K-drama won with Extraordinary Attorney Woo. So the possibility exists that if you really, really liked it, maybe it wouldn't be even up for this year, would it?
It'd be up for next year, yeah.
Right. So this is a political drama, geopolitical drama. The Diplomat has been compared to it. Bodyguard, Designated Survivor. It's about a former diplomat who decides to run for president after the previous top presidential candidate.
Yeah, I also had Day of the Jackal.
Yeah, we'll get into our comparisons. I'm just saying what like the immediate bold-faced like comparisons were, not the ones that we necessarily had just after watching it. So yeah, you've got this former diplomat who's deciding to run for office after the previous presidential candidate, her husband, is assassinated.
Junik, yeah.
Yeah, and then she, not Junik, but Mun-ju, is that her name?
Yeah, Seo Mun-ju.
She then hires a bodyguard to protect her because it becomes clear that her life is in danger.
Sang-ho.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit of your Korean film knowledge, because I know you are aware of some of the famous directors out there. For instance, who directed Parasite?
Bong Joon-ho.
And who directed Oldboy?
Park Chan-wook.
Park Chan-wook. And do you know the Oldboy story or anything about like what was going on with that series?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's part of the Vengeance trilogy.
Oh, right, because there was like Misery or something like that first, and then I think Oldboy was the second film in the Misery trilogy.
It was the second film, but I think that the Vengeance trilogy, it started with Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. It went Oldboy, and then it went Lady Vengeance, which I think is what you were saying was And the funny thing about that is that his co-writer on that was Jong So-kyung, who he met kind of there, and they've been writing partners ever since. She's the one who wrote this series, The Tempest.
Oh, okay.
So he's not like associated directly, but indirectly he is. Just to move forward with that, though, do you know what he also directed? The Handmaiden.
The Handmaiden, right? That came out in 2016.
She co-wrote that as well.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they really are like joined together.
Yeah. Yep. So
it's like Quentin Tarantino as Samuel L. Jackson or something like that.
If Samuel L. Jackson was penning his scripts, sure.
Well, it's also like Christopher Nolan and his brother. I know that he writes a lot of scripts with his brother. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Jonathan Nolan.
It is from Westworld.
Is it?
Unless he has multiple brothers that I'm unaware of.
I know he writes with one of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's jump into Mun-ju's storyline here, because it really is her journey that's guiding this, right?
Right. So she is, as you were saying, she is married to a politician of the New Republican Party, Junik. And then we kind of, for the first 20 minutes of the first episode, really get their backstory. She's having dreams where she's being assassinated. And
so like, isn't that how it kicks off?
Yeah, that's the first scene of the whole show.
Where she gets killed, and in the same manner that her husband does later.
Right. She's even on stage with her husband as her husband is giving a speech, and then, she gets a bullet to the neck.
So, I mean, if you think about it, if you want a presidential candidate, you sort of would want one that's prophetic, like who's able to see the future. That would be really helpful if you're the president of the not the United States, but of South Korea. Yeah.
Well, it was a strange thing because I was wondering understanding why she was imagining this, but like you're saying, it probably was
I
foreshadowing.
don't think that it's indicative, though, that this series has to be some sort of like supernatural thing where she literally has a superpower. I think there's a lot of politicians out there who probably have nightmares about like speaking in public and someone trying to hurt them. It's also interesting how like the dream is shown not it's about her, but it's from a third person perspective. So it's like she's seeing it from her husband's eyes or
She
something.
says that she has a dream where she imagines she's a man, and then, yeah, we see her husband, but then she herself is shot in the
But
dream.
that never happens in the reality. In the reality, it's like how many minutes into the thing where we see her husband
I
die?
think about 20 minutes or so.
And how much of an introduction do you have to his character before that
You
happens?
learn a little bit about him, like, he's probably going to be the front runner for the new Republican Party.
Do you ship Mun-ju and what's his name? Junique?
Junique, yeah, sure. I mean, it seems like she's going to be loyal to him because we learned that she was actually helping President Che, the president at the time, who he's going to be running against,
Mhm.
Madam President. And she even goes to her face to face and is like, I can't help you anymore. I have to be with my husband, obviously, and
And she
kind of
also
side with
steps
him.
down as like ambassador of the
Yep,
country for that. Yeah, yeah. So what is that just because it's a very patriarchal society and she's just like I have to follow my husband's
I
orders?
think so.
All right.
Yeah.
And what is his main like initiative?
Well, the one thing that's going to be big that he's doing on the day that we start the episode is he's going to be going to mass because there's supposed to be a reunification effort between South Korea and North Korea where they're supposed to unify.
Right.
There's
I didn't realize how big religion was in either Korea. Like, I don't think in North Korea, I thought the whole idea was that the religion was Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Il, like just you follow the great leader. Versus, I guess in South Korea, yeah, Christianity has uh, evolved there.
Well,
Yeah.
there's huge protesters outside the church, even when people are showing up, because obviously there are the ones that like don't want to unify, and then there are counter protesters at that. There's like news organizations outside. So when Junique and Seo Mun-ju arrive,
Is
like
there security? You would think like someone would have been able to
yes,
stop the shooter, right?
that was the thing that I was trying to understand. So yeah, Jun-ik, when he's inside mass and it's being held, he gives a speech, and then out of nowhere, even though there are all these people outside, and even though I think we see security, there's someone that walks in. And they're wearing huge like armor get up. They're definitely like a soldier of some sort, or at least they're wearing it. And then they just pull out a gun and they shoot Jun-ik like right there and then. And then kind of an important
Yeah, so,
scene
like, it's
happens.
not a sniper, it's someone that could have been tackled, and not only is it someone who could have been tackled, it's someone that Moon-ju had clocked earlier,
Yes.
right?
Right,
Like,
yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
saw
She
him.
she saw him outside, and right, when it seems like he's going to shoot the husband again, she runs in front of the gun because people at this point are leaving the mass
Yeah,
like
but he was
crazy.
dead by this
But
point.
this was really important because she says to him before to the shooter, she says, "I can convince him not to reunify because the
That's
shooter
his
that
main
shot him."
initiative,
Right.
is he wants to bring North Korea and South Korea together, and later on, it's sort of revealed that the reason why they think that he wanted to reunify was because there was a rumor out there that he was a spy?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So what happened was we got kind of the first sense of who Sang-ho is because we thought that he was just this photographer, but he ends up tackling the shooter, and then the shooter has one of those pills, takes it, and kills himself.
A
So
cyanide capsule.
yeah, at this point we're trying to figure out what exactly is going on because so much craziness has happened in the first half of this thing. We have the assassination of a
Did you
political
expect the
influence.
assassination to happen because of the dream?
I knew that's something. I didn't think that it was going to be him. I thought that it was going to be her, and I thought that possibly the dream was going to happen at the end of the first
Like,
episode,
they'd switch characters on you, or she'd become a ghost?
or well,
It can
something.
happen.
I mean,
K-dramas, anything can
yeah,
happen.
no, I know K-dramas can be crazy. I thought that we might be dealing with like the main character dying in the first episode, one of those type of TV shows. But no, instead, what we learn is that she is actually going to be running for president. That's kind of where the
But she
dream.
doesn't make that assessment in the first episode, right? That's something she comes to a conclusion in the second episode, right?
Well, she's thinking about it
She's
because
already thinking as soon as her husband dies to become president?
the reason is that she's having dinner with her husband's family later on that night,
Right.
and
This reminded me a little bit of like Sunny, where or even Fool Me Once, where some of the family treats her like she shouldn't be there. like she doesn't, like she never belonged, that they're obviously not her fan, while other ones in the family were like completely in her camp.
It
Were
seemed very, like, hard to kinda judge what exactly was happening because Jun Sang, he's the brother of Junik. He's talking about how he should run for president.
He's a prosecutor, right?
Yeah,
That's his, that's like every time he speaks, he's like, I'm a prosecutor. So
and he
listen.
and from that, he's thinking that he's going to be able to secure the party's nomination right away. But then Ok Seon, who is Junik's mother, that's the person who's like, "You know what? I'm thinking that maybe Mun-ju should run anyways."
Yeah, she's the one who's mostly in her camp, but the grandma is the one
The
who's like,
grandma.
get the fuck out of here. You don't belong here. And so when the lawyer pops in, what does the
Right.
lawyer say?
So the lawyer says that inside of Junik's will, everything when it comes to like all his inheritance goes completely to Mun-ju,
Yeah.
none to the family. And then I was like, all right, so now it's like Knives Out because so far with like the assassination of the political leader, I was thinking Day of the Jackal, Bodyguard, the Night Agent, but the will thing. Knives Out. I mean, there was even that Inheritance show that came out a couple of years
And
ago.
again, Sonny and Fool Me Once. It's yeah, everything about like the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
But usually it's the mother-in-law who hates the main character. But in this show, the mother-in-law is the one who's on her side, who's saying you should still run for president, right?
Right.
And so that's what was a little jarring because I was expecting the whole family to be against her, the whole family to want to sue for their stuff. But instead, the mother-in-law says something along the lines of, you give us our stuff back or the stuff that he bequeathed to you, and I will make you president of this of the entire of South Korea.
Well, it's not her choice. That happens in the second episode. That was something that Mun-ju came to with an agreement with.
I know, but I like how the mother-in-law is like, I have enough power to and persuasion to kind of pull every string and make you the president, but I don't have enough like money in my own bank account to just make up for what my husband or what your husband just gave to you.
Well, we see how they do it even at the beginning of the third episode. What they do for Mun-ju to get the party nomination, and around that time is when the picture comes out of her in front of her husband with the gunman. So that helps her global
her
image.
PR immediately takes off as like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she skyrockets in terms of popularity, but they also blackmail a lot of people that are going to be that can easily get her that nomination, which is why at the end of the third episode it seems like she's going to be running.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they're blackmailing in her favor.
Right.
Yes.
Because we so Song.
But at the same time, isn't there a killer out there trying to kill her?
That's what I mean by so much is happening in this
So
TV
my question
series.
is it the same people who were trying to kill the husband who are now trying to kill her?
It's
cloudy?
hard to tell because
Cloudy?
we don't exactly know who it is. Like, there's no
agency
one
or who?
big villain. Yeah, because Song-ho, he's the person again that action is falling kind of everywhere. He's the person that saves her.
We'll just call
inside
him the
mask.
bodyguard because that's eventually what his position's going to
Sure.
be.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
originally, he is sort of an independent. He wants to go off to North Korea by himself, right?
Yeah, and we even see in the first episode, he takes Mun-ju into the woods. I thought that was cool because at the very beginning of the episode, we see Mun-ju running through the woods, so it was kind of a nice bookend of the first episode.
It's cool, but isn't it also like weirdly romantic for someone who just lost their husband in such a catastrophic way?
So I saw that one of the genres was romance. We haven't gotten that yet, though.
Okay, really? When you saw in the third episode, I know I'm jumping a little bit here, in that weird scene where he had to flip with her on the seat, you didn't get any vibes between the two of them? Like
that might be the closest it gets. Like, there hasn't been one of those like normal cliches with Korean dramas where it's like the long looks between one another.
Maybe you
and
haven't
long
seen enough
stares.
Korean dramas because I feel like there've still been indicators that these two are destined to be together.
Well,
other than the fact that they're just both the two members
He's saving
starring
her
in it.
life. He's even telling her that he thinks that Jun Sang, and it makes more sense in the first episode when Jun Sang, he might have been the reason why his brother died because he wanted to get
The prosecutor.
Yes, he wanted to get the president nomination.
Doesn't he also, and I might be wrong about this, but doesn't he also kidnap the prosecuting attorney kidnaps her best friend, Mun-ju's best friend or something?
Yes, so Miji.
Yeah.
So in the second episode, this was what was so funny was that Jun Sang, they treat him like he's going to be a big part of this series. I don't know how many episodes it's supposed to be. I know Korean dramas can
9.
be very long. 9? Okay, because I know moving was like 20.
It actually ends October 1st, I think.
Okay, but in episode 2, yeah, he gives Mun-ju weird. It reminded me of Justified the pilot. He gives her an ultimatum, which is basically you have to leave Korea right away in 24 hours, or else I'm going to come after you. I'm going to kill Miji, someone that he's kidnapped that we saw Mun-ju interact with in the first episode. I think Miji was someone that was also helping President Che. I may be wrong about that, but he knows that that's the way that he's going to be able to not have Mun-ju be a problem anymore. And so,
I would assume not. So he threatens her, and strangely enough, though, he still listens to the mom's character, right?
yes.
So I don't know why she wouldn't directly just go straight to the mom and say, "Do you know what your son's doing?"
Well, because OK Seong, even though she was the one in the first episode to be like, you should be president, we definitely understand that there's some tension between the two of them. And once that will information comes out that all the inheritance has been given to Mun-ju,
So this is
she's
before
completely
she's
against it.
jumped on board with "you're going to be the next president." This is kind of in the interim, and
Right.
so you're going back and describing like the possibility existed where he kicks out Mun-ju from South Korea. She goes live somewhere else. He tries to run for president, and the mom backs him.
Right.
Okay.
So then Jun-ik, though, like you're saying, that's when we learned that he might have been a spy, and the tensions between the U.S. and Korea is kind of coming to like a real big boiling point.
Right. So
Because
let's talk about the U.S. for a second,
Yes.
because this is where the show has gotten a lot of props. Because if it's the first time, apparently, a K-drama has ever cast a lot of Americans, starting with John Cho.
Yeah, let me just talk about John Cho for a second. If you are a big fan of him, you're going to be disappointed if the first 3 episodes are any indication because of how little he's in the show for.
Oh, that's yeah. What are you a big fan of his from?
Star Trek is what I mostly know him
Harold
from.
and Kumar, Searching. He's been in a lot of stuff. But yeah, then Michael Gaston plays the Secretary of Defense, and then Christopher Gorham plays Ethan, and I remember him from like Harper's Island and stuff like that. So they've got a fair number of, and they all speak relatively good English, right?
Yeah.
That's the main difference. It's not Squid Game level. So you've got the American side of things, and you say that they're not in too many of the episodes, but Ethan, I think, is the one who keeps on trying to hire out the bodyguard guy to start bodyguarding. And this is even before she decides to run for president, Mun-ju, because he realizes her life is at risk. But what does Ethan have to do with her to begin with?
You know, I was trying to understand that storyline, and I really don't get Ethan's character as one of my cons for the show because Ethan, yeah, you're right. In the first episode, he goes to Sang-ho and is like, "Look, I really want you to keep an eye on Mun-ju." And then Sang-ho, he ends up being refusing that. He's like, "No, but he was already doing that."
He's the leader of like an agency, right?
Right.
Ethan is.
Yeah.
And I think that how do you say his name?
I say Sang-ho.
Okay, Sang-ho, he still has a conscience, but at the same time, he's ready to get back to his own family in North Korea or save some people in North Korea.
Right, he has a grandma who's
Right.
in North Korea that
And
that
so
he
he's
needs to
going through a
protect.
priest to try to get to North Korea, but that goes haywire because the priest ends up dying or the father ends up dying.
Right,
And,
so that's where they that was one of my favorite fight scenes because San-ho goes to check on the priest and the assassin is in the room, and then we get a cool like one-on-one action scene.
And somehow Mun-ju also knows this priest. That may be the same guy who maybe ran the church that they were at.
We see him in the first episode.
Cool. And now that we're talking about that, I do remember in Squid Game there was a fair amount of like religious characters, so it does blend
Like
into this.
religious symbolism or like religious
Like the guy
characters,
literally
like...
had Thanos had a cross with a bunch of pills in
that's
it.
true.
Remember?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and also that's actually what reminded me of. You just reminded me of that because Seo Mun-ju is given a cross, a necklace from her husband before she died.
Yeah, I know he talked about peaches a lot, and I only know that because he was the guy who played him was in a movie or TV show that's something tangerines. So I just that connected. But the other thing I wanted to point out is the action sequences, which you were just saying.
Right.
It had the same co-director because they had 2 directors, one for the regular sequences and one for the action sequences. And the action sequences, same director as Moving. And
Okay.
and then also they got the same composer from Moving and the same composer, like two composers, the same composer who did Squid Game, but also Parasite. So all of these are connected.
That was a lot there was a lot less action than I thought there was going to be, because we only really have the
So
mass
far.
scene in episode 1, yes, so far, and then we get the kind of assassin battle in episode 2.
I would count the explosion.
The explosion was in episode 3.
Right.
But, yeah, I was just gonna finish up with episode 2. They go into the back. It reminded me of Parasite, because there was, like, this fake wall, and they realized that, yeah, not only was Junik a spy, but that he was given this letter, and he learned that since the U.S. was feeling threatened because of a North Korean submarine, they were planning a full-scale attack, and I think
Not just
that
a sub. I think the sub is holding nuclear weapons.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
you said nuclear submarine. Yes,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah,
sense. Okay.
and then the priest was going to kind of leak this letter to the public, but we learned that actually the President Che, who again was Madam President that we see in the first episode, she burns all the evidence.
Ooh.
So that's when Mun-ju was like, you know what, I need to run for president. And I thought that episode 3 was the best out of all 3 episodes, because it seemed the most focused. For the first 2 episodes, as you can tell even with this summary, there was so much that they were trying to throw at the screen, and it seemed like it lacked a lot of it. With the third episode, it mostly focuses with Mun-ju. She is about to accept the party's nomination, and then when she sits down in this subway or this train,
They're like
bomb.
filming her the entire time.
Right.
They film her get into the. It's not a subway because it's not underground, right?
Yeah,
It's
no,
just a regular train.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, a train.
Yeah. So she sits on the train and she's on the phone with Sung Ho.
Yeah, Sang-ho, and I thought that this was also the best that I got, because it was the most action. Because you see Sang-ho, he learns about the bomb, and he's trying to get there as fast as possible.
And you see the guy who planted the bomb getting up and leaving. And I think he even says on the phone, like, "Don't sit down."
Right, but
Had
at
she
that
just
point,
not done that, then this would have saved all that drama afterwards. But she does end up sitting down, and that
it was,
causes
you
the
know,
pressure release.
that
Yeah.
is true. Had she not sat down, it would have made it easier for the show. But I thought it was the best part of the show, anyways, because it's the most intense that it had gone up until that
Right.
point.
It seems like fans are believing it because she was being filmed at the same time and didn't want to seem rattled.
Right.
Because the whole idea was, stay polished. You're about to give the speech of your life. You want people to see you as a strong person. How weird would it be if you just went running off a train?
Well, I was also wondering, because they keep on talking about how far the bomb squad is out at this point, how San-ho, yes, we see him driving erratically trying to get there, but how they were so far behind, because he's able to make it to the train station like way before the bomb squad is able to.
Yeah.
He's able to be the one that actually disables the bomb before they're able to, by, like you were saying, switching seats, but not letting the weight kind of drop.
It was an Indiana Jones type switch, but with a human body,
Yeah.
for sure. And then he survives.
He survived. That was the craziest part. Not
With
only
some
does
crazy plot on.
Yeah. So, like the second before the bomb gets off, they've been able to actually get everyone who was on the train out.
Yeah, making
but-
it seem like it was a bomb big enough to blow up
Right.
the entire train.
And Mun-ju is standing right outside it. I got that she was in heels, but I was like, take the heels off and get where everyone else is hiding.
No, she was waiting. She was waiting
Yeah.
for it to explode, because after it exploded, it still showed the shard that came out and was about to hit her, but got stopped by the glass, but barely.
Yes,
You know? Like
right.
it's still. So she was tempting fate.
In the last second was Sang-ho. He like jumps up from his seat. I guess that he tries to get out of the train as it explodes. And
Not
like
out
you
of the
were-
train. I think he was trying to get to the roof part,
Right.
because he knew the explosion. I guess he thought he would just be blasted further up or something. I don't know.
But it
like,
was only inside the cabinet that it explodes from.
right. It's like jumping on a grenade, like the helmet over a grenade and expecting not to blow up with it, you know?
Yeah.
I expected his back to just be like torn to shreds.
I genuinely thought he was going to die. I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting way to go about have the bodyguard just like kind of die straight off the bat in the first 3 episodes.
Right. But he's fine.
No, he's fine.
Couple cuts and scratches.
No cuts and scratches.
No, a couple. There were a couple.
Mun-ju doesn't have anything. She is just like completely okay.
Well, she gives the speech then, right?
Yeah, she goes, and that's kind of where the third episode ends. She delivers a speech. It becomes, her popularity even soars even more. And then that's when we get the official, like, San-ho is going to be the bodyguard for her in the at the very end of the episode.
Yeah, she finally is like, you got to do this, man.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, fine.
And then a missile we see launches from a submarine. That's how they decided to end it. It was a very weird cut, but yeah, we see
A nuke?
Yeah, we see it launch into the
possibly
air. It
a
reminded
rocket.
me a little bit of kind of like For All Mankind, because I know they had similar shots like that.
Yeah, I would
And
say For All Mankind did a better job because I mean Apple budget versus
yeah,
this had a pretty big budget, 70 billion Korean won, which is the equivalent of like $50 million, but that's still nothing compared to Apple.
I remember when we did Moving at that point, Moving was like the most expensive Korean
Right.
TV series. And then it was beaten by Squid Game season
So,
2,
like,
right?
moving was the thing that saved Disney's Disney Plus in like places like South Korea because that was its main thing, and so it got big. This is supposed to be on the heels of that because it's also on Disney Plus. Squid Game is like on the Wikipedia page for K dramas, like right at the top, because it's like this changed everything. Yeah, it's and as I said, they have the same composer from Squid Game. I knew you wouldn't recognize most of the cast, but I will say that the main character, Mun-ju,
Yeah.
was from My Sassy Girl, which was the movie that was then made into a US movie. And I know that the Korean version, the original, was like supposed to be really famous. And what else do I want to say here? Kim Hee-won was the person who did the direction. Both her and the writer had worked on Little Women together. It's a different, not the same one as the American version, but also very well liked. As a spy drama goes, what would you give this?
I will give it a 6.5 out of 10 because this was a case where the show was juggling way too much. It's like, I understand that in that way, it's a little bit like Suits LA, where there was so much craziness, you can just kind of try and hop onto the ride. But it also didn't seem like it was over the top enough to like, it seemed like it was taking itself too seriously and it just didn't really mesh well. But I also did like characters like San-ho. Again, he was my favorite. And there were less Korean cliches. There still was no piggybacks. There was kind of the evil mother-in-law, but the mother-in-law did help them. There were some close-ups, but there's like not a third person for a love triangle, at least not yet. And there's not
I
really
don't think they already killed off the third love
yes,
triangle person. Yeah.
right. And there's no rich guy, poor girl. If anything, I think it's kind of flipped in that
Yeah. Did
way.
you go through all your comparisons?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to add Hit Monkey because I remember in that one you have assassins, obviously, but you have the main candidate who's assassinated, and then one of like his colleagues, like his daughter's there, but it ends up being like his right hand man who ends up running, and then it turns
Right.
out that he may have been involved. That reminded me a little bit of how the brother could have been involved in the person's death.
Come to think of it, the tone a little bit, there's hints. There's hints of the terminal list. Again, any type of
Right.
conspiracy thriller that you can really
And
think
then
about.
Citadel, international super spies, bombs, and trains. Because
Yes.
you also hear that Sung-ho could have been North Korean. He could have been a guy named Mark in the U.S. Like, he could be anybody.
Yeah, we see even in 2023 that he was in the Iraq and he was fighting.
In the Iraq?
He was in Iraq, yeah.
So the reviews overall from critics have been very good. Deadline, Ebert, and Collider all liked it. New York Times gave it more of a mixed thing, but still credited like the characters, how they looked, and also how the American storyline is going, how that is much more realistic than the majority of these are.
It may be realistic, but I want to see more what happens with Mun-ju. It seems like the American storyline would save a ton of time for the episodes because it seems like it doesn't have to like be there. It just seems like an extra thing that they added, you know?
Oh, so far. But wouldn't you want to then see more American storyline to see how it's important to the main storyline?
Yes, no,
Yeah.
and I understand that they have 6 more episodes to go. Like, John Cho is probably going to show up way more, and it's probably going to become more present. But right now, I'm more interested. Like, I was interested when Mun-ju,
You're saying, yeah.
the whole time, like when her,
You're more
husband got
engaged when
assassinated.
you're watching the main storyline. So
Right.
far, the American stuff has just been off to the side. So I have one game for you here because whenever you do a Korean drama, I just love to go through like all the Korean shows that are out there and or movies and how crazy the plots can be. And so I've got 3 real and 1 fake, and you have to decide which one is the fake one. Okay.
Okay.
So Dark Nuns. This is about 2 nuns who work together to save a boy who has been possessed by an evil spirit. Then you have Afraid of Mice. A man squashes a royal mouse, setting off a war in Seoul between humans and the rodent king's army. And then you have Blade Man. Wealthy man with a prickly demeanor develops the supernatural ability to sprout knives from his back when he's angry. And then lastly, Thirst. A Catholic priest turns into a vampire as a result of a failed medical experiment, and then he falls in love with the wife of his childhood friend.
Thirst sounds like I've heard of that one before, but I'm going to go. What was the second one? Not Dark Nuns, but the
Afraid
other
of
one.
mice? A man squashes a royal mouse, setting off a war with Seoul between humans and the Rodent King's army.
I'm going to go with the second one because that sounds too much like a Sausage Party.
Afraid of mice.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the fake one. Good job. But I thought I would get you with Blade Man because Blade Man doesn't sound real, does
Blade
it?
Man sounds cool though.
Well, Blade Man with a prickly demeanor, but has the image of the poster is what sells it, I think, because he's like a porcupine. he's got all these knives just poking out from his back. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.